A completely new tale unfolds as a girl stands in the heart of a lavish party teeming with guests. Suddenly, a man known as Lord Marcus, with a voice that booms through the hall, shouts at her, rips a page and throws it in her face, declaring before everyone that he is breaking off his engagement with Syel. She looks confused and asks him why, but he cuts her off coldly, telling her not to pretend to be innocent while holding another woman tightly at his side. The crowd falls silent, shocked to witness the engagement of the prince and his fiancée unravel in such a public and humiliating way. Clenching his jaw in frustration, Marcus accuses her of tormenting Annika the moment she found out she was the real saint, pushing her down the stairs, spilling wine on her dresses, and treating her cruelly out of jealousy. This all takes place in the kingdom of Grandio, a land where once every 100 years a saint is born. 7 years ago, the royal palace prophesied that the next saint would be the daughter of the noble Vias Count family, and as the count's child, Syel was immediately declared the saintess and engaged to the prince shortly after. She narrates that just a few weeks ago, her stepmother claimed that Annika is the true saintess, branding her a fraud. Back at present, a young girl steps forward, calling Syel her sister-in-law and asking how she could do something so awful. Syel defends herself, claiming it was always Annika who ran into her, not the other way around. Marcus sighs, admitting he no longer knows what Syel is capable of, and for the real saintess's safety, Annika will be exiled to the distant, dangerous land of Tori. Syel's eyes widen in disbelief as she asks if he is truly sending her to Tori, and the guests murmur in shock at the drastic decision. She reminds him that the land is overrun with monsters and also houses the elite First Knight Corps. Marcus continues, stating firmly that she will serve in the Knight's dormitory. The crowd is outraged, unable to believe such a punishment is being handed to a noblewoman. But Marcus stands firm, declaring that the decision is final and that even if she begs for forgiveness, it will change nothing. To everyone's surprise, Syel smiles and thanks her former fiancé for choosing this path for her. He snaps, demanding to know if she seriously just thanked him, and asks if she's lost her mind. Even Annika appears stunned, blurting out that she is about to be sent to work among rugged men, but to everyone's disbelief, Syel only grins and replies that she'll do it all with pleasure. A smirk plays on her lips as she silently thanks the heavens. Perhaps God does exist after all. For years she had buried her thoughts, unable to speak her truth. She's always been fond of brawny, muscular men. In fact, she adores knights, especially those from the royal palace. The First Knight Division in particular is an elite squad selected from among the best, and seeing them lay their lives on the line, their taut, sweat-drenched bodies visible even beneath their uniforms, has always stirred something in her. So now, being allowed to live among them in their dormitory feels like a fantasy come to life. Without hesitation, she grabs Marcus's hand, sincerely thanking him for such a favor. Looking at him, she admits internally that it's not as though she disliked him, he just never caught her eye. He was simply too slender. Then, to everyone's shock, she wraps Annika in a hug, congratulating her on becoming the future queen. And with that bold flourish, she is gloriously exiled as the false saintess. Weeks later, she finally steps into the remote territory of Tori. Arriving at the knight's dormitory with nothing but her suitcase, she introduces herself to a stern woman named Elva and receives permission to settle in. Upon entering her assigned chamber, Syel is astonished by how spacious and lovely it is, while Elva is equally bewildered by her reaction, pointing out that a noble like her must have had grander rooms back in the capital. Syel nods with a polite smile, though in truth, she only had a luxurious room until her stepmother stripped it from her. After she finishes unpacking, Elva instructs her to follow her downstairs, and Syel enthusiastically agrees. Elva can't help but notice her bright, eager demeanor and questions why she seems so thrilled. Syel replies with a light laugh that she simply enjoys doing this sort of thing, though inwardly she knows it's all because of the knights, and she must keep that secret to avoid raising suspicion. Regardless, Elva seems relieved to find someone so willing, explaining that they've been short-staffed lately and her arrival is a stroke of luck. She warns her that the work here is grueling, far beyond anything someone of noble heritage would normally endure. She warns the princess that the work here is grueling, far beyond what someone of noble heritage typically endures. Syel throws her arms out and passionately declares her readiness to tackle any task Elga assigns, from cooking and scrubbing to laundry, promising to handle everything with devotion. Her passion stuns Elga, but for Syel, this is familiar territory. Since her father's death 5 years ago, her stepmother has forced her to perform every household chore. To Syel, this feels like a second chance at a life where she is no longer a helpless aristocrat. In her heart, she silently thanks her stepmother for sending her here. Turning to Elga, she expresses her willingness to do whatever is needed and vows to ask for guidance if she lacks a skill, determined to improve and master every task. Elga smiles, her expression softening, and acknowledges that life hasn't been easy for Syel. Glancing at her small bundle, Elga questions why she carries so few belongings. Syel thinks to herself that it's embarrassing. Everything she owns now fits inside a single suitcase. Her stepmother and Annika took everything her father once gave her. Still, she reassures herself it's fine. This marks the beginning of her new life. Standing before a gate, she waits for permission to enter. Elga informs the commander of Syel's arrival. Syel is stunned, not expecting to meet the commander himself. The young man turns, warmly welcomes her, and remarks that her journey must have been tiring, inviting her to sit. Inwardly, Syel panics. The commander himself offers her a seat. Her eyes drift to his physique, and her cheeks flush as she realizes this is the legendary leader of the First Knights. Overcome with happiness, she feels she wouldn't mind dying here. Quickly, she urges herself to calm down. This is only the beginning. She introduces herself politely, stating that she is under his leadership starting today, and though she may not be of much use, hopes for his guidance. After a moment of silence, the commander bursts into laughter, finding her amusing. Syel freezes, worried her excitement makes her say something odd. As she nervously takes a seat, he encourages her to speak casually and introduces himself as Leo. When she addresses him as Sir, he gently insists he dislikes formalities, explaining that everyone under his command is like family and he prefers casual interactions, asking if she is okay with that. Still composed, she slips and calls him Sir again. Observing his warm smile, Syel is quietly taken aback. It's been so long since anyone smiled at her like this, she can't recall the last time. Leo is nothing like her former fiancé, and with that thought, her admiration for the knights deepens. Leo informs her that he will introduce her to the others later, and they'll see her at dinner. That sounds pleasant to Syel. Elga adds that she'll give her a brief tour of the place in the meantime. As they walk through the castle grounds, Syel acts like an enthusiastic admirer, fascinated by being in the same place where the knights live and train. The thought fills her with excitement and deep inspiration. Elga casually mentions that Syel can explore on her own until dinner, but to her surprise, Syel eagerly announces her readiness to start work immediately. Confused, Elga asks if she isn't tired after such a long journey. Syel cheerfully responds that she isn't tired at all, having spent most of the day sitting in a carriage, so her body is full of energy. Elga raises an eyebrow and asks if she wants to help prepare dinner instead. Syel enthusiastically agrees to assist. To Elga, Syel seems like an unusual young woman, brimming with unexpected spirit. Syel laughs and asks if that's really what Elga thinks. Meanwhile, two knights nearby notice Syel and quietly wonder if she is the new recruit. One considers introducing himself, but the other suggests waiting until dinner. One knight glances at Leo and asks if something bothers him. Leo simply replies that it's nothing. And so today marks a turning point for Syel. She finally has the opportunity to work in the place she has always dreamed of. From here, she has to see how things unfold in her favor. Meanwhile, Leo sits alone in his room, scribbling notes into his journal as he reflects. The young woman he encountered today was nothing like the rumors he had previously heard. He's well aware that she was once engaged to the Prince of Grandio and was labeled the false saint, supposedly tormenting her younger sister upon discovering that she was the true one. That betrayal supposedly led to the collapse of her engagement, a tale that always struck Leo as somewhat unbelievable. Still, in a place like this, surrounded by monsters and far from the capital, they accept anyone willing to work, and most non-knights here carry their own baggage or troubled pasts. As the leader, Leo's only goal is to maintain peace and safety, so he resolved to guide her regardless of who she truly is. Yet after their first interaction, he couldn't help but chuckle at her quirky confidence. A smirk plays on his lips as he wonders whether she's planning to marry him or settle here permanently. Most new arrivals are either terrified or utterly drained, yet she appeared energized, her bright emerald eyes filled with unshakable enthusiasm. What shocked him even more was her plain clothing, clearly not what one expects from nobility. Perhaps it was punishment or exile. Even so, she radiated liveliness during your first meeting. Just then, one of his men steps into the room, noticing Leo lost in thought and frowning deeply. He jokingly asks what's wrong, claiming Leo's expression looks menacing. Leo greets him as Murko and assures him it's nothing, then shifts the topic, asking what he thinks of the new girl. Murko, caught slightly off guard, asks in what way. Leo explains he's talking about Syel, wondering aloud if Murko also finds her different. Murko nods, admitting he expected a cunning noblewoman, but was surprised to find someone so ordinary. Leo agrees, noting that while she doesn't resemble a highborn lady, it's not necessarily a negative thing. There's something refreshing and unfamiliar about her presence that lingers in his mind. He also heard she helped prepare tonight's dinner, and oddly, it tasted better than usual. Both men find it puzzling that a former noble like her would willingly cook for others. Murko speculates whether this is some new form of noble education, but Leo, shaking his head, says he's never heard of such a trend, even if he's been away from the capital for quite some time. Still, he admits that her careful demeanor and culinary abilities weren't bad at all. Starting tomorrow, she'll officially begin her work here, and he believes that people's true nature usually reveals itself quickly. But that's not what truly concerns Leo. Instead, he's beginning to question whether the reports he received were inaccurate from the start. What if everything they believed about her character was wrong? This uncertainty lingers in his mind, urging him to uncover the truth for himself. The next morning, Syel wakes up earlier than anyone else. Even the knights are surprised to see her already up and active. With her usual bright and cheerful tone, she explains that she woke early to help prepare breakfast. Moments later, she pushes open the kitchen door, greeting everyone with a warm good morning. The kitchen staff and others are taken aback by her energy so early in the day. Smiling, she asks if there's anything she can assist with. Elva looks at her curiously and questions if there's anything she doesn't know how to do. Watching her, Syel silently wonders if this is what having an older sister might feel like, perhaps someone like Elva. Her gaze shifts to the pantry, and she notices that, despite this being a remote area, the food supplies are quite generous. It's clear that the residents here are provided with high-quality ingredients without limitation. Thanks to that, she thinks, she's also able to enjoy such satisfying meals. It almost feels like a dream, delicious food, kind seniors, and most of all, living among the handsome, strong knights she once admired from afar. Her heart races with joy as she tells herself that she'll keep being a good girl from now on, silently wishing for things to remain this way forever. When Elva asks if she can make omelettes, Syel confidently replies that she can. Later, when breakfast is served, everyone begins searching for the person who prepared the omelettes, clearly impressed by the taste. Elva informs them it was Syel, adding that she also handled the soup seasoning. They're genuinely surprised, noting that even the soup tastes slightly better than usual. One knight curiously asks what she added to it. Syel simply smiles and thinks to herself, it's love, then tells them she's glad they enjoyed it. The knights can't stop eating, claiming it's so delicious that they feel revitalized and more motivated to tackle their duties. Elva, pleased by the positive feedback, officially hands over the responsibility of meal preparation to Syel, and she happily accepts. That evening, Syel heads out to do the laundry, once again impressing Elga with her skill and efficiency. Syel, though slightly flushed from effort, admits it's her first time doing so much work all at once, so it might take a bit longer than expected. But to Elga, she's already working impressively fast. Smiling, Syel turns to her and asks if she really thinks so. Syel feels overjoyed in her heart, determined to do her absolute best to meet everyone's expectations. However, she struggles slightly while trying to hang the laundry, as the wires are a bit too high for her shorter frame. The real reason she always tries to finish tasks quickly lies in her past. Due to the harsh education she received as a noble raised like a servant, she never had much free time. She often had to cook her own meals, clean her room, and do laundry all on her own. Because of that, she developed the habit of rushing through chores just so she could sneak in time to read romance novels, especially those featuring cool and stoic knights. She also secretly used to peek out from her window to watch the knights train. In truth, it's those very days that prepared her to handle work so efficiently now. While sorting the laundry, she suddenly notices that all the clothes share the same style, and with a jolt, she realizes they are the under-uniforms worn by the knights beneath their armor. Overwhelmed by joy, her head starts to spin slightly. Helga, noticing something is off, rushes over and asks if she's all right. Syel quickly apologizes, saying she just felt a little lightheaded. Elva urges her to sit and insists that she take the rest of the day off to rest in her room, but Syel politely refuses, insisting that she's fine. Internally, she's panicking, thinking that if they discover her excitement, they might throw her out. She couldn't bear to lose what feels like a paradise. Determined to stay, she steadies herself and tells herself she won't give in to her emotions. After all, she was once engaged to a prince, she must maintain composure. Just then, someone calls her from behind. Turning around, she sees Leo approaching. He tells her he had stepped out for a bit of work, and upon returning, he saw her working so hard to hang the laundry. Syel is flustered, finding it hard to believe he caught her in such a moment. Suddenly, Leo reaches into the bucket she had been using. Syel's heart skips a beat, confused and amused, wondering if this is some sort of reward for her efforts. Could this be her pay for the day? The thought leaves her both surprised and delighted. Syel gently tells Leo that he doesn't need to help with the chores himself and suggests he take a break inside, but he shakes his head, disagreeing. He explains that the place is already short-staffed and everyone tries to do as much as they can on their own. A few more knights step forward, mentioning that they also want to lend a hand. Watching them, Syel begins to truly understand what Leo meant when he said they were all like family. These knights not only risk their lives in battle, but even the staff working in the dormitories face danger daily. Yet the atmosphere here remains warm and welcoming. After finishing her chores, Syel sits down beside Elva to enjoy their meal. With a soft smile, she remarks how kind everyone here is. Elga nods and asks if that's how she sees it, then shares that each person in this place has their own story, including herself. She reveals that she was practically sold off to repay her family's debts, and most of her earnings are still sent back home. Despite that, she now prefers her life here far more than her past, and it's all because, just as Syel said, the people here are genuinely wonderful. Hearing this, Syel realizes she isn't alone in having endured hardship. Perhaps coming to this place has allowed her to finally find a bit of happiness. And much of that, she feels, is thanks to Leo's genuine warmth. She comments that Leo is not only approachable and kind, but also carries himself with a certain elegance, making it clear he must have been raised well. Elga agrees with a small smile, but Syel notices something in her expression and quickly adds that Elva is the same, graceful and beautiful in her own way. Elva thanks her for the compliment and says that ever since Syel arrived, she feels more energized. Maybe it's because the meals Syel prepares are so delicious. At that moment, Syel comes to understand more deeply that everyone here has their own burdens, yet they keep moving forward. She begins to wonder quietly to herself, does Leo have a story of his own as well? It has been a full week since Syel arrived at the estate, and here, every task is assigned based on each individual's strengths. Her responsibilities include meal preparation and handling the laundry. One afternoon, while she's feeling slightly fatigued during her laundry duties, Leo suddenly appears, offering her sincere praise for her hard work. Syel finds herself unable to look away from him, mesmerized by his striking features and perfectly balanced physique. Even the man standing beside him, Murko, looks equally impressive. Noticing that she seems dazed, Murko asks if she's feeling all right. Snapping out of her trance, she shakes her head and tells them that she is fine, insisting it's just a little overwhelming. Flustered, she adds quickly that she was only talking to herself. Without another word, both men roll up their sleeves and reach into the laundry pile, taking sides to assist her. She panics slightly, blurting out that the captain and vice captain are doing laundry with her, her cheeks turning red as she watches their large hands handle the clothes and towels, making everything appear so small in comparison. She thanks them for their offer, but gently insists that she can manage on her own. However, Leo shakes his head and says it'll go much faster if they all work together, then turns to Murko, asking if he agrees. Murko nods and tells her not to worry about it. Syel watches the two of them in silence, thinking about how kind they truly are. Once the task is done, she expresses her gratitude, but both men respond that they should be the ones thanking her after all. She's been managing it alone until now, and that makes them feel a bit guilty. She quickly waves off their concern, saying it's really nothing. Working here feels like a dream come true, and that alone brings her happiness. Leo smiles at her, offering his help anytime she needs it, and she thanks him sincerely. Murko then tugs gently at Leo's arm, reminding him that it's time for them to leave. As they walk away, Leo looks back at her with a soft gaze and says he'll see her again soon. Left standing there, Syel feels a bit confused, wondering if they need something from her, or if they were simply being kind. Later, when she serves lunch, which consists of neatly prepared sandwiches, the knights are once again delighted, impressed not just by the taste, but also by the careful presentation. Even Leo compliments her culinary skills, and while the praise warms her heart, Syel remains quietly puzzled. She can't understand why they find her simple meals so incredibly delicious, especially when they're nights. The sandwiches Syel prepares are noticeably crispier than usual, and the knights sincerely thank her for her exceptional effort. She smiles modestly, telling them they're exaggerating and that it's really nothing. But Leo, curious, remarks that there must be something special in her cooking that seems to give them energy. Syel laughs softly, expressing her gratitude for the compliment, genuinely delighted that they enjoy the food she prepares. Despite this being a dangerous region, there hasn't been a single monster attack since her arrival, which she knows is thanks to the tireless protection of the knights. After lunch, the men insist they'll handle the dishes themselves, much to her surprise and amusement. Watching them roll up their sleeves, she finds herself distracted, quietly admiring their folded arms and toned muscles. When one of them asks if she said something, she quickly covers it up by saying she simply appreciates all their hard work. At night, Leo turns to Murko, asking what he thinks of Syel. Even Murko admits she doesn't seem suspicious at all. Leo nods in agreement, observing that her reactions are entirely genuine though occasionally odd. They never feel dishonest. Elba also vouches for her, stating that she is incredibly diligent, never slacks off, and has shown no hidden intentions. In fact, if anything stands out, it's her humility and dedication. That alone makes Murko wonder if the original reports about her might have been inaccurate. Leo agrees, remembering that Syel's father, Count Vyas, passed away 5 years ago, after which her stepmother adopted a relative to inherit the title. Their relationship was likely strained, and perhaps the stepmother aimed to marry her own daughter to the prince. Staining Syel's reputation would have made that goal easier, especially if the prince accepted it all without proper investigation. Feeling a growing sense of injustice, Leo tells Murko that this situation needs to be quietly investigated as it could potentially impact Prince Marcus's future. Murko agrees, stating that if that's the case, Leo won't be able to remain uninvolved. As the conversation ends, Leo silently reflects, feeling a deep sympathy for Syel. He can't even imagine the kind of life she must have endured. Despite everything, she smiles so brightly and works so hard. Looking at her, he thinks that such a small frame must have carried so many burdens, and the only thought that crosses his mind now is this: if she's struggling, he wants to help her because she's already endured enough, and more than anyone, she deserves a chance to be truly happy. Murko casually asks Leo if he's thinking about Syel, pulling him out of his thoughts. Leo responds with a quiet yeah, maybe, and his friend chuckles, telling him not to worry, she might actually be enjoying her time here far more than they expected. Leo nods, agreeing that if that's true, he hopes it stays that way and mentions he's going to take a short break. Meanwhile, Syel is coming down the stairs, her heart light and a cheerful smile on her face. Since she started working in the dormitory, each day has been filled with small joys, and at this moment she's simply feeling thirsty, planning to head to the dining hall for a glass of water. As she steps inside, the pleasant aroma of herbal tea hits her senses. Curious, she opens the door further and spots Leo sitting there. He looks up and asks what brings her there so late at night. She explains she came for some water, and he smiles, saying her timing is perfect and invites her to join him. As she looks at him, her eyes briefly trace the outline of his well-built frame, and her cheeks turn red. Leo, unaware of her flustered thoughts, introduces the tea to her, mentioning that it has a light, refreshing aroma. Then he gently asks if she's adjusted to life here. Without hesitation, she blurts out a joyful yes, explaining that everyone has been so kind, and she genuinely enjoys her tasks. His expression softens into a smile, and he jokes that his tea could use a bit of sweetness. Immediately, she rushes toward the cupboard to grab some honey for him, but struggles with the cap. Seeing her fumble, Leo steps forward and offers his help. As he opens the jar with ease, the only thing Syel can focus on is the way his long, masculine fingers move. She thanks him and reaches out to take it, but in the process, her hand brushes against his. Her cheeks flare red as she silently panics, mentally screaming that she didn't mean to touch the hand of a national treasure like him. She stammers out an apology, trying to calm herself down. Leo simply chuckles and reassures her that it's nothing, and in fact, he should be the one apologizing. Her eyes widen as she stares at his kind expression. He notices and gently asks if something's on his face, prompting her to quickly turn away and mumble that it's nothing before hurrying off to bring him the honey. When she returns, she sits down beside him, watching silently as he stirs the honey into his tea. The moment is quiet, almost still, yet strangely comforting. As she continues to observe him so closely, a strange sense of familiarity washes over her. It feels as though she's met him before, perhaps in a distant dream. Syel completes preparing supper and settles gracefully at the dining table. Tonight she has made a rich stew of rabbit meat slow-cooked in fragrant wine, served with soft, fluffy bread still warm to the touch. The aroma alone fills her with quiet joy, and she keeps admiring her own effort with gentle pride. A tender smile remains as she questions whether she truly deserves such easy happiness. For the past 5 years, her pastimes consisted only of reading stories and observing the knights of the royal court, yet now she finds delight because the people in this place treat her with kindness and even the simplest meals taste marvelous. Suddenly, Leo steps into the room and asks why she seems so cheerful. She stares at him in shock, realizing uneasily that she might have voiced her thoughts aloud. Rising at once, she apologizes for speaking so loudly and respectfully asks if he needs her help. He replies that he is merely looking for something to drink. She offers to bring it, but he gives a soft smile and gently tells her to stay at ease, assuring her that he will take care of it himself. As he pours the tea, he asks if she minds his sitting beside her. She answers calmly that she does not, though soon she grows distracted by his closeness, her gaze following the shift of his throat as he drinks, only to notice she has been staring too long. Tilting his head, Leo wonders if something troubles her. Snapping out of her trance, she quickly insists that nothing is wrong, reminding herself she must carry the manners of a proper lady. He comments that he already ate earlier and praises the effort she put into the meal. She answers that his words bring her relief. Taking another bite, she beams and admits how much she adores the bread's tender softness. Her remark puzzles him, and he confesses she often leaves him uncertain, for she was once a princess, a noblewoman, and even promised to a prince, so surely she had eaten food far finer than this. Startled, she coughs on her bite, and with concern, he urges her to eat calmly while offering the tea. She sips it, then grows flustered when she realizes it is his own cup. He only smiles kindly and assures her that her cooking gives them strength, lifts their spirits, and is treasured by all. She answers softly that it is nothing, adding that it will take her much longer before she can reach the skill of the master chef. Syel speaks with deep respect for the knights, admiring how they protect others even at the risk of their lives. She says Leo's presence makes her feel safe and notes how the knights, unlike nobles, are strong yet humble and kind. Leo chuckles, saying she's exaggerating, but she passionately insists she's not. When she realizes how close she's gotten, he steps back with a laugh, calling her amusing and thanking her for being a steady source of strength with her encouraging words. Surprised by the compliment, Syel recalls her time with Marcus, how they never laughed together as nobles weren't allowed to show such emotions. But the knights laugh freely, and it makes her thankful for her broken engagement, even as she quietly wonders about her family. Leo says talking to her is always nice. She agrees but quickly looks away, worried she sounded strange. When he asks if something's wrong, she says she just feels a bit dizzy. His kind response makes her admire him more. She wonders if what she feels is love, or if it's simply because he reminds her of the knight from a romance novel she once loved, though she can't recall its name. Later that evening, Leo sits alone, drinking quietly. After 2 months with Lady Syel, he's sure of 2 things. The rumors about her were completely wrong, and she genuinely cares for everyone, always up early, working hard without complaint, even on holidays. As he reflects further, ready to voice his next thought, Murko interrupts, asking what burdens him. Snapping back to reality, Leo is asked if he was even listening, and he apologizes, admitting he was not. Murko presses again, asking if something rests on his mind. Leo brushes it aside, claiming it is nothing. Yet another knight's eyes brighten as though he understands, and with a grin, he declares that Leo's face betrays him. He boldly claims it is love, and even asks if the woman in question is Lady Syel. Nearly panicking, Leo denies it, but he continues to tease, insisting he must be right. She's charming, spirited, and calm, qualities Yodi openly admires. Shocked, Leo asks if he likes her, and Yodi calmly says yes. Turning to the vice captain, Leo asks the same, and Murko also admits he does. Suddenly, Leo jolts to his feet, his hand striking the table as he exclaims that he understands, realizing he was mistaken to think only he had affection for her. Leo tries to clarify, telling Yodi he simply meant that everyone enjoys her company, but in that moment he finally understands what they truly meant. Yodi smirks and teases, asking if Leo likes her in that way. Caught off guard, Leo nearly panics. Murko chimes in, amused, noting how rare it is to see Leo take interest in a woman. Flustered, Leo quickly denies it, insisting he's not in love, but deep down, he's unsure. For the first time, he realizes his life has been entirely devoted to duty, leaving no room for feelings like these. Though his father often wrote urging him to consider marriage, Leo always ignored it. As an illegitimate son, he had no fondness for the home that never welcomed him. From a young age, he joined the Order of Knights, and because of that choice, he never pursued matters of romance. Now, however, he cannot decipher the truth of his heart. What unsettles him further is the fear that complications will arise if Syel is truly a saint. For the recent calm, the absence of monster attacks, and the sudden vitality of the land all suggest such a possibility. And if that is true, tradition dictates she would be promised to a prince, leaving him tense and uneasy. Meanwhile, Murko observes calmly that the two of them would indeed make a fine match. Yodi, speaking more directly, warns Leo that if he truly desires her, he must act swiftly, for another man may step forward first, especially since she has already become greatly admired among them. At those words, Leo grabs Yodi by the collar, his frustration boiling, and even Murko agrees, pointing out that Leo is not the only one who treasures her. Yodi, however, smirks with a daring look, asking if Leo wants him to directly ask Syel what kind of man she prefers. This makes Leo realize that he needs to be cautious, for he cannot continue living in such turmoil any longer. The scene transitions to the royal capital. Annika suddenly shouts that she can't take it anymore. Her tutor scolds her, reminding her that noble ladies must not speak that way. But Annika keeps yelling, saying she's reached her limit and pleading for Marcus to save her. The teacher turns to His Highness, explaining that Annika refuses to learn and keeps repeating the same mistakes despite proper lessons. Annika, frustrated, argues that the tutor is too strict, which is why she keeps failing. Watching the scene unfold, Marcus holds his head in his hands, realizing he's now caught in a problem he can't easily escape. Especially when the tutor scolds Annika, warning that if she continues acting this way, she will never be able to become the crown princess. Annika shouts back, insisting the woman is wrong because she is the true saintess and destined by fate to claim that role. The teacher exhales in frustration, walks toward the door, and informs the prince that she can no longer offer guidance. Marcus watches Annika closely, remembering that it has been only a month since her lessons began and already several instructors have resigned. Even if she is truly the saintess, he endures this chaos not only for her reputation but also for his own position and for the sake of his mother. His mind drifts toward rumors that his father favors his illegitimate son. Some claim it is because of a strong resemblance to their grandfather and great-grandfather, while others whisper Marcus is overlooked despite being the queen's child. Many even suggest that his father might choose the concubine's son as the next king instead of the rightful heir. For Marcus, his only chance of securing the throne lies in marrying the saintess, yet he was enraged when he discovered Syel had no interest in him. Her refusal unsettled him deeply, for as the saintess, she was supposed to be his bride, and her unusual powers made him doubt if she was genuine at all. Grinding his teeth, he fears that if matters continue, he may reach 20 years of age without ever being declared crown prince. He recalls Annika loudly proclaiming to be the true saint. He felt brief relief as she rushed to embrace him, declaring that, unlike Syel, she truly loves him. Yet as he studies her behavior, doubt creeps into his heart about his choice. Returning to the moment, he asks her to display some saintly power, but she excuses herself, claiming she is too tired to use them that day. Marcus sighs, convincing himself it is acceptable since she belongs to the same noble house as Syel, even if they share no bloodline. He tells himself she must be the true one because otherwise disaster awaits. Meanwhile, Syel carries evening snacks to the knights diligently training in the yard. They thank her gratefully, saying they truly needed the food and praising the flavor with cheerful smiles. She laughs softly, replying that she is glad they enjoy it and that she also appreciates their hard work. From across the field, Leo and Murko spot Syel carrying a tray. They tell her she shouldn't trouble herself and should rest instead. She smiles and says it's no burden, she actually enjoys watching their training. Leo, surprised, jokes about her liking the sight of sweaty men. One knight angrily protests, saying they bathe daily, and Syel quickly agrees, making the knights proud. Yodi then turns to the captains, asking why they're just standing there and challenges them to spar instead. With a playful grin, he looks at Lily, asking if she agrees, warning that if they refuse, no one will receive snacks. Murko, after a moment of thought, removes his jacket and declares he is ready, politely asking Syel to hold it for him. Trembling slightly, she nods and agrees, her cheeks faintly pink. Yodi smirks, teasing Murko by asking if he dares to use a real sword, With a calm sigh, Murko replies that of course he can, and Yodi is free to strike with all his strength. He hesitates, admitting he's afraid of hurting the respected vice-captain. Murko chuckles, assuring him there's no need to worry. If Yodi does manage to injure him, he might even get promoted. Syel watches in shock, but Leo notices her uneasy expression and gently reassures her that Murko would never harm a junior knight. Still, Syel feels a hidden excitement, realizing she's about to witness a real knight's duel. The faint, pleasant scent lingering on Murko's jacket in her hands almost makes her lose focus. As the duel begins, Murko tells Yodi not to hold back. After a few exchanges, he smirks, pointing out that while Yodi's stance is solid, it's still rough. Gritting his teeth, Yodi presses on with determination. The other knights watch closely. Many admire his effort, even though he's clearly being outmatched. When Murko slightly eases his strikes, some think Yodi might have a chance, but Yodi pushes himself too hard and eventually collapses, breathless, admitting defeat. He thanks Murko, who praises his speed and accuracy, but warns him not to overestimate his strength. Lily, wide-eyed and fascinated, applauds with genuine admiration. Murko retreats his jacket from her and humbly remarks that their captain is far stronger than he is. Leo, embarrassed by the praise, mutters that he believes so, and Lily's eyes widen with shock as she realizes the truth. Leo is the captain, which means he surpasses even Sir Murko. Her cheeks flush red, leaving her confused and wondering why nervousness suddenly overwhelms her. Later, as night quietly settles over the camp, she gathers courage and walks to Leo's quarters. Knocking softly, she asks if he is inside, and when permission is given, she steps in, politely excusing her intrusion. He looks at her curiously, asking what is wrong before motioning for her to sit beside him. Feeling hesitant, Syel softly tells Leo she has brought something for him, then reveals a small plate of lemon slices soaked in honey, explaining they are good for easing fatigue and gently urging him to try. He accepts the plate, asking with interest if she prepared it only for him. She smiles warmly, replying that since he missed out on eating earlier, she decided to bring them especially for him. Leo's lips curve faintly as he thanks her, promising to eat them later. Turning toward the door, Syel politely says she will take her leave, but suddenly Leo sighs and asks if she would share a cup of tea with him. Without hesitation, he prepares it himself, carefully pouring a cup for her before sliding it across the table. She thanks him softly, though in her thoughts she is astonished. Never once had she imagined drinking tea prepared by the captain himself. Gathering courage, she asks if he was born into a noble family and curiously inquires about his home. Leo sighs, gently calls her name, which makes her instantly attentive, and tells her that she has always been working tirelessly for everyone. He asks if she is certain she is not overdoing things. Syel looks puzzled but assures him with a bright smile that it is not the case at all, because in truth she is happier now than she has ever been. Her candid words leave him silent and uncertain, making him wonder at the depth behind them. Syel notices his thoughtful gaze and realizes it seems as if he has something more he wishes to say. Suddenly, his eyes shift toward the small pouch in her hand, and he asks who it is meant for. She answers honestly that it is for the vice-captain, and she will deliver it later. Offering without hesitation, Leo says he can bring it to Murko himself, but Syel hesitates, admitting she does not wish to trouble him. He shakes his head, assuring her it is no burden, since Murko is usually training at this time anyway. Reluctantly, she agrees and politely asks him to pass it along. After a pause, Leo poses another question, asking if she would like to accompany him if they ever had a free day together. He quickly adds that he would not force her, saying it would be only if she truly wished. Syel is left speechless, her heart fluttering at the thought of going out with Sir Leo, the captain she had once admired only from afar. The scene transitions to their day together. Leo turns to Syel and gently asks if they should leave now. She nods in agreement and softly requests that he take care of her for the day. Stepping inside first, he extends his hand to her in quiet assistance, and she accepts it gratefully, thanking him for the kindness. He smiles and replies that it is nothing of consequence. Yet inwardly she feels flustered, wondering if it is truly proper for her to hold the hand of someone of his rank. Still, she cannot refuse, for the moment feels far too precious. She admits with sincerity that she appreciates him setting aside time from his demanding duties, but he reassures her easily, saying it is no trouble at all since he is looking forward to the outing himself. It has been quite some time since he last went into town for anything beyond work, and he hopes this day can serve as much needed rest for her as well. As the carriage rolls forward, Syel thinks to herself that if such a break means being accompanied by his strength and warmth, she would gladly welcome it always. She confides that even during her years in the royal capital, she rarely had the chance to visit town, so she feels truly happy that he invited her today. He looks a little surprised, asking if that is because her days were consumed by the rigorous training expected of a princess. She nods, admitting it is true, and is moved by how he understands her circumstances yet continues to treat her with kindness, even though she views herself as only a false saint. Secretly admiring how handsome he looks in casual clothes, she is briefly lost in thought, imagining leaning closer at him. Flustered, she suddenly blurts out a thank you. Surprised, he asks what for, and she hurriedly replies, "It's just for today." Soon, the carriage arrives at the bustling city of Tori, and as they step out, townsfolk are amazed to see the captain walking among them. Several greet him warmly, remarking that it has been some time and asking if he has come to shop. A cheerful shopkeeper calls out eagerly, mentioning he has fresh apples in stock and urging him to take some. Leo thanks him politely, promising to return later. The man then notices Syel beside him, his eyes widening as he asks if the captain is on a date. Leo lets out a quiet laugh, replying with a teasing grin that perhaps it would not be so bad if that were the case. Syel gazes at him in disbelief, her thoughts spinning as she wonders what he means by calling this a date, silently questioning if it truly is one. Her breath catches when the realization strikes that her very first date in life is happening with Leo. He smiles gently, asking if they should move ahead since the crowd is thick here, reminding her to be cautious. Once more, his hand brushes against hers, sending her heart racing so wildly that she swears she might never wash it again, secretly thinking that even if he asked her to follow him into the depths of hell, she would willingly go. Soon he guides her to a shop where the shopkeeper greets them warmly and displays delicate chant lace, a fabric also admired in the royal capital. At first, Syel panics inwardly, imagining he might harbor some odd hobby of dressing like a woman, but instead he smiles softly and asks if she would allow him to buy a gift for her. Stunned, she blurts out that she would accept only if it is not burdensome for him. But he quickly insists, raising his voice slightly to emphasize that it is no trouble at all, pressing her again if she will truly accept it. Her eyes widen in disbelief, and moments later, she emerges in the elegant new dress. He studies her with a pleased smile and says it looks just as stunning as he expected. Assuring her he doesn't give empty compliments, he gently urges her to see for herself. Leading her toward the mirror, he points out how perfectly it suits her and how beautifully it harmonizes with her hair. Then, turning toward the shopkeeper, he firmly declares that he wishes her to keep wearing it and to finalize the purchase. The shopkeeper agrees, promising to wrap up her old attire. Still overwhelmed, she shyly asks if he is truly going to buy it for her, and if he is certain he is fine with it. He reassures her again, explaining that it brings him joy to imagine her accompanying him someday while dressed in this. Her heart warms and she smiles brightly, thanking him for the thoughtful gift. As they head out, he casually asks if she wants to try some skewers. She nods, though inwardly chides herself for getting too caught up. Soon, they sit near the shop, enjoying the food. Syel bites into the venison skewer, savoring its perfect saltiness, until sudden shouts erupt from a nearby table. A furious customer accuses the shopkeeper of serving spoiled meat, his words slamming across the market. The shopkeeper snaps back, demanding what he means, while the man's companion warns him not to talk back and declares they will never pay for such a pitiful place. The shopkeeper, his voice sharp with anger, accuses them of attempting to dine and dash since they had eaten every bite already. Syel immediately recognizes the troublemakers and starts to rise, but Leo signals her to stay put. The shopkeeper confronts the men, demanding they leave, only for one to pull a knife and threaten him. In an instant, Leo steps in, disarms the thug, and pins him to the wall with swift, precise movements. The crowd gasps as Leo calmly tells the shopkeeper to call the district knights. Once they arrive, the lead knight praises Leo's quick action. Leo then tells Syel it's best to leave things to the authorities. She follows, still in awe. Watching him act so effortlessly, she quietly wonders if it was magic. Trying to shake the daze, she mentions the food was great. Leo smiles, glad she enjoyed herself. She thinks to herself how humble and kind he is, despite his strength and high status. As they walk, Syel notices a shop that catches her interest and asks Leo if they can stop by. Inside, she's amazed by the beautiful displays. Leo spots a glowing stone and explains it's a magic stone. Some carry real power, while others are just decorative. She listens closely and then blurts out that the stone looks like his eye color. Leo chuckles and suggests buying it. The shopkeeper praises her choice, saying it could serve as a protective charm. Leo silently agrees, sensing faint magical energy from the stone. Outside, Leo notes how oddly quiet the shop was, but Syel is just happy with her new charm. Holding it close, she silently prays for Leo's safety, even though she still doubts herself as a false saint. Just then, Leo calls out to her, but she doesn't respond. He turns to see her staring at the stone in shock. She shakes it off and suddenly offers it to him, saying she placed her prayers in it to keep him safe. Blushing, she calls it a small but heartfelt gift. Leo freezes. He can feel the stone's power surging, far stronger than it should be. His heart races as he wonders if her prayer carries the true power of a saint. Sitting alone in her room, Syel realizes she has the whole day off, a rare treat. Yet her thoughts keep drifting to the nights, especially yesterday's outing with Leo, which still makes her heart flutter. Wanting a distraction, she decides to clean the training hall, secretly hoping someone might pass by. To her surprise, Leo is already there, training with his usual focus. Her heart races at the sight. When he notices her, she quickly apologizes for disturbing him. He reassures her gently, asking if something's wrong. Watching him work so hard even on his day off, she feels a warmth deeper than admiration. Her eyes trace his muscles before he hurriedly puts on his shirt, apologizing. Flustered, she blurts out a request to see him again, then panics and covers it up by saying she just came to help clean. Leo smiles, thanking her but urging her not to push herself. She insists she enjoys helping, adding, half-jokingly, that she's already been rewarded, though it's a secret. With quiet sincerity, he tells her that if anything ever troubles her, she can come to him. He admits he left home young, finding purpose on the battlefield, and though he may not be the most dependable, he wants her to know he's on her side. Touched, Syel thanks him, saying his words mean a lot. As he leaves to wash up, she teases that she'll try not to drool. His earlier serious expression lingers in her mind longer than expected. Meanwhile, Leo returns to his quarters, pulling out the gem she gave him and staring at it thoughtfully. Later he visits Murko, who's fresh from the shower and munching on Syel's snack, commenting on how delicious it is. Leo agrees easily, saying it must be because she put her heart into it. Murko narrows his eyes, asking why Leo has come so late at night. Startled, Leo avoids his gaze, but Murko notices his hesitation and jokingly asks if something is stuck on his face. Leo blurts out that he only realized Murko has sharp eyes, a strong nose, and well-formed lips. Murko nearly chokes in shock, staring in disbelief, wondering if Leo holds that sort of interest. Flushing, he quickly denies it, though his thoughts circle restlessly. Why exactly do women admire Murko so deeply? Is it his striking features, his sturdy frame, or perhaps the aloof air that makes him seem unattainable? Uneasy under the prolonged stare, Murko demands that Leo say what is truly on his mind. At last, Leo admits that during the duel, Syel had watched with unbroken fascination. It was clear that Murko instinctively knows how to capture a woman's heart. With a chuckle, Murko tells him that if he planned to bring it up, he should have at least put on a show himself to impress the knights. Leo agrees with a nod, then suddenly challenges him to a spar. Murko raises a brow, unsure if he's serious, then teases that there's no need to be jealous. After all, she gave him her food first. That alone proves where her favor lies. Though Leo concedes the point, Murko pauses, his expression turning serious, and asks if he's truly in love with her. The question catches him off guard. He thinks back, how happy he felt just seeing her today, how close he came to confessing. And the memory of that glowing gem returns. That moment, wasn't it the power of a saint's prayer? Murko asks if they had a moment alone. Leo quietly says they did. He told her she could lean on him whenever she needed. Pressing further, Murko wants to know how she responded. He remembers her smile, so bright and sincere, and how her words of thanks left him breathless. Yet even now, he's unsure whether the depth of his feelings truly reached her. Taking a slow sip of tea, Murko remarks that he believes they did, yet for Leo the truth runs deeper. Beyond titles or duty, he knows he genuinely loves her. Meanwhile, in the royal castle, Anika lounges comfortably, nibbling on her favorite sweets until a servant interrupts, reminding her it is time to resume her bridal training. Irritated, she questions why, insisting that as the proclaimed saint she is destined to marry the crown prince regardless, and for now what truly matters is indulging in more cake. The crown prince approaches, frowning as he sees her eating, asking if she is still not finished. She retorts that a saint must remain happy for her powers to function. But when he makes a sharp comment about her appearance, she bristles with anger, demanding if he just called her fat. To her shock, he admits she has gained a little weight, which enrages her further, shouting that he is unbearably cruel. In the end, overwhelmed, the prince yields, sighing and telling her to do as she pleases. Their quarrel is abruptly cut short by a knight rushing in with urgent news. A monster has appeared in the royal capital, emerging from the direction of Tori. Yet thanks to the swift action of the Third Knight Order, the beast was subdued quickly, and the destruction kept to a minimum. Annika, startled but relieved, asks if the castle itself is safe, then sighs in relief when assured it is, showing little concern beyond that. The prince, however, studies her expression in disbelief, thinking bitterly that a true saint should care more for the suffering people than her own comfort. His eyes widen in alarm, for he knows that in recent years not a single monster dared to breach the capital's walls, yet now, with a supposed saint present, they suddenly appear. Uneasy, he questions the knight further, asking if there was any reported damage in Tori. The knight assures him none, explaining that, strangely, just like the previous month, no incidents have been recorded there. The prince stiffens as realization strikes. In such a dangerous region, not a single monster has appeared for months, and this unusual calm began after Syel's exile. Yet confusion gnaws at him, for Syel never once displayed powers resembling those of a saint. Now reflecting on Annika, he recalls uneasily that he himself has never witnessed her abilities firsthand. The only testimony of her divine power comes from her mother's claim alone. Seething with anger, he orders Rick to infiltrate Tori.
Here I am,